Everybody, and welcome into Lightning Round.
No, it's Greg Zerline.
No, oh,
I don't even know these people.
You have my solemn vow we are done at wide receiver.
Pemba said fold.
Till the next round.
This is sitting on top of my Scott Fishbowl trophy.
I have a cup for Cooper Cup, I guess.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Lightning Round. I'm Kevin Tompkins of Fantasy Alarm, of course, with Britt Flynn, Andrew Cooper, and I'm going to stop saying of course because earlier today we did record with Matthew Berry, and he did go into the soliloquy that you will hear on Friday about my use of the phrase "of course." But of course, since I'm just going to lay it all out tonight, we do have Samantha Previte from Action Network. We're going to be talking about some ADP versus ADP. Sam, I know I'm pulling you away from the Avs game, and I'm so sorry for that, but I am forever indebted to you for coming on while there is Game 1 Stanley Cup action. So how are you?
I'm doing great. Obviously, agreed to this before the Stanley Cup finals, but no, I'm just like quietly checking the score on the side. Nothing's changed, so I'm pumped. And speaking of Matthew Berry's soliloquies, he did like the same thing about like something very random that went on for like 20 minutes on a podcast that I was on with him, and I kept trying to like reel him back in. He was just like, "But one more thing." So he's notorious for that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, he definitely took this one over as well, but he's a legend, so I guess he can do that, you know.
He is the king, and that will be out on Friday too. A little bonus action for you. But not only are we going to go from ADP versus ADP, we're giving away a Scott Fishbowl spot tonight. So we will be spinning the big old wheel here in about 20 minutes or so. So stay tuned for that. See a lot of people into the chat, so welcome everybody that is here. Let's get right into it. Let's talk about some hard-hitting action, especially with your underdog ADP. So I'm going to go into this right with quarterbacks. So Aaron Rodgers and Derek Carr, both are back-to-back, quarterback 13, quarterback 14. If you have this decision in your best ball team or even in your redraft, Sam, Rodgers versus Carr, which one are you taking if you have a decision between the two?
Yeah, this one shouldn't be as close as it is, but it is pretty close. Obviously, some off-season roster changes make this one really close. But I'm gonna go with Rodgers. I mean, it feels so much safer. 10 seasons in which Rodgers has been healthy, started at least 10 games. He has not finished under QB 10. Carr is like one of those sneaky type guys that like you tell people that he was like QB 12 last season, they don't believe you. But I like him, and he's one of my favorite like QB 2s. But QB 13 just feels like Rodgers' floor at this point. So I'm still buying into him even without Devontae Adams. So I am going to go with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, I look at these, and when I see these two guys, both 13 and 14 outside the top 12, what that tells me is that feel free to wait on quarterback. You know what I mean? It's like if you're not going to get somebody at the very top that has both the passing and rushing upside, like the Josh Allens or the, even down to like Dak Prescott, like if you don't get those guys, forget trying to reach for, I mean, even Stafford, Brady, those guys, I don't see why these two players can't be just as good, and they're a lot cheaper. So it's kind of a tough decision. I do like going with Derek Carr in this case, just for the upside there. I think the new Packers are probably geared up to run the ball a little more than we've seen in the past. And we've also never really seen Derek Carr with an elite pass catcher. They've been trying for a long time. I've said this before on the podcast. Antonio Brown called the GM a cracker, got kicked off the team. Their first round pick is in jail in Henry Ruggs. They traded away, so they took Ruggs. They also took Lynn Bowden and Brian Edwards in the third round of that year. Both those dudes got traded away. Like they've been trying to get him pass catchers for a long time. Now he had, it's amazing that he's done so well with basically a guy that washed out of the league in Darren Waller and a fourth round pick in Hunter Renfrow. I mean, who knows what the upside's like when he has real pass catchers, and this year he does. So I'm kind of intrigued by the upside there, especially in 6-point passing leagues versus 4, because we know that He's not a super mobile guy, but I kind of like taking the shot on the upside with Carr. But like Sam said, obviously Aaron Rodgers is the safe pick. So if you're a more conservative gamer, it's hard to, the back-to-back MVP, a little difficult to pass on that. So, Britt, what do you think?
Yeah, I lean Derek Carr, honestly. The Raiders were 6th in passing attempts per game in 2021, and now you do add in Devontae Adams. They're also playing, obviously, in the AFC West, but all of the game spreads and over-unders dropped. Every single game against an AFC West opponent has an over-under of 50 points. Like, these are going to be shootouts. These are going to be dogfights. They're going to be crazy. Carr has the potential to put up massive points. And I don't really think that they have a running back room who's going to do anything. Like, Josh Jacobs has said specifically that he doesn't want to be a bell cow back. So I just don't know how much efficiency they're going to get out of that room. The Packers have the 15th easiest strength of schedule, and I really do think that they rely on Jones and Dillon to carry the team over Lazard, Watkins, Watson, and Cobb. Lazard's yards per route run was 80th in the league last year, and he was 81st in route win rate and then 73rd in total route wins. Like, if this is the guy we're going in as our wide receiver one, I don't care how good Aaron Rodgers is, there are going to be bumps in the road, and they're going to have to rely on their passing game. And I just really don't see him having a better overall season than Carr, especially in best ball.
So can I sit on a fence here and pick both, because it's kind of I see you guys laughing, but it's contingency based. So if I'm if I'm stacking up Waller and Adams, that's when I'm gonna go with Carr. I mean, I would rather have the upside of that Raiders offense if they are just gonna. I mean, I don't know if they're gonna be airing the ball out like they were last year, but just based on the weapons that they have with obviously Renfro too, I want to take a shot on Carr. If I'm in my redraft league, a seasonal, not, managed league, I want Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that guy's always gotten through with efficiency. Yeah, he's lost Devontae Adams, but, this offense is still going to run through Aaron Jones, going to run through A.J. Dillon, and then they've still got, Alan Lazard, Christian Watson, Robert Tonyan, the ghost of Sammy Watkins, all these, somebody's got to step up. And if nobody steps up, it's going to be pretty flat. But a lot of guys are going to get opportunities, and Aaron Rodgers can certainly get the ball out to these guys. So, he's visiting the witch doctor right now, trying to conjure up a spell to figure out who's going to be the wide receiver one in this team this year.
Eating some mud for good luck.
So Kev, the thing about that, and I've been thinking a lot about it because I've been doing a ton of best ball drafts because I'm a sicko. The problem that you run into with the stacking with Rodgers, not only do we not know who the top wide receiver is, but the ADP for Rodgers and both those wide receivers is so close together that you almost have to be picking at like the swing and take them bing bang, which means you're reaching for one of them a little bit. But it's like those guys are going so quick. And I noticed that like when you take one, if you take one of those wide receivers, the other one goes like right away. So it's like you almost need to have Rodgers and then take your pick of the wide receivers, or you kind of need to be in a spot where you're picking close enough together that you can get them both. Because that's the trouble I run into, is that I've had ones where I take the wide receiver first, and then someone takes Rodgers, or I take Rodgers and I'm left with nothing. And in best ball, which is kind of what we're talking about here, those stacks are important. I mean, we've seen the numbers on it, and it does go a long way. So that's what I run into there, is that it's easier to stack guys when there's a few rounds difference between the players you're trying to get,
Yeah. And Watson and Lazard's ADPs are like right up against each other. So you're rarely going to get Rodgers and Lazard and Watson. Right. You're not going to get the three. I mean, you just talked about Rodgers being up close with those two. And then you've got to take deep, late shots on Romeo Doubs, on Sammy Watkins, on potentially even a Randall Cobb, Tonyan, in the kind of in between both of those groups of guys. But yeah, it's tough to stack a Rodgers. You almost have to play him by himself in best ball, just because, and then just hope for the best. You land on the right lottery ticket with those guys. So that's me sitting on a fence with Carr in best ball and Rodgers in managed leagues. Let's go over to running back. On the show graphic I use is the main event. I don't know if there's a lot of different matchups here, but let's go with Joe Mixon versus DeAndre Swift. Britt, I'm going to go with you first. You have the choice between Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift. Who are you taking?
I'm taking Mixon. I don't necessarily know that Swift can stay healthy for one. And he has the upper hand on Mixon in targets, but he's still ranked below him in fantasy points per game. And the disparity grew even more, when you consider that he missed 4 games and then you didn't get those season long points. DJ Chark and Jameson Williams are going to eat into his target share. And as a runner, he ranked 55th in true yards per carry. So if you take that target share away, he really doesn't have any upside. Mixon, on the other hand, was 4th in weighted opportunities last season. And now the Bengals have this really stacked offensive line with Karras, Alex Kappa, and Leon Collins. Mixon was 3rd in carries, 3rd in yards, and number 4 in touchdowns, even though the Bengals ranked 16th in run plays per game. And I mean, if I'm going to go with a running back, I'm going to go with the higher powered offense who has the chance to get a lead and play that positive game script and just give him more carries. Plus, I mean, he's a stud. So Mixon all the way for me.
What about you, Sam?
I need you guys to know that it's 3-3. Not that this is a hockey podcast, but
that escalated quickly.
Biting my nails, yeah.
Your heart's just like.
Yeah, no, this was a really interesting matchup because it's like, on one hand, it's Joe Mixon, the guy that I've like defended for years and just like have this love affair with, versus a former Bulldog who I also really, really love. I mean, obviously felt super vindicated last year with Mixon, and maybe he sort of overplayed, where I think he should have. But the edge just goes to Mixon for me. I mean, it's like he was RB4 in points per game last year behind like Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, and Austin Eckler. Like, that's pretty good company to be in. Swift RB13 in points per game. And to Britt's point, I am concerned that some of those targets are going to be siphoned away with the addition of DJ Chark and Jameson Williams once he is healthy. So I just think that like the argument that he's way more involved in the passing game, that kind of falls a little bit flatter for me.
Yeah, for me, I'm with you, Sam. I've been a Mixon guy for a while. I defended him. I wrote an article, a pro Mixon article last year and an anti-Swift article. I thought that because they were tanking, they would do the smart thing and not force the ball to DeAndre Swift until he got hurt, right? And instead, what they did is Dan Campbell biting kneecaps, forced the ball to DeAndre Swift until he got hurt. So
the Lions doing the smart thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, never.
It's I fell for it, right? The fallacy of rational coaching. It can get us all. So this year, I do like Swift in that. Obviously, they've shown that they play to win, no matter what. Like no matter what the front office is doing, this is the way you should do it. Like the Dolphins are the opposite, where the front office tried to pay the coach to lose games, and that just creates such a weird thing. It's like, let the GM build the ghost ship, and then the coach needs to coach players to win games, because these guys are fighting for jobs and stuff, future jobs. So I like that situation. But in this particular discussion where we're talking about underdog, which is a half PPR format, I'm going with Joe Mixon over Swift. If it was full PPR, it'd be a little bit closer for me, I think, because Swift has that upside of 7-8 targets a game at times or whatever it is. But in full PPR, half PPR, you need more pure rushers, right? You need guys that can go out and potentially close out games, have monster games. Like Britt talked about, running is the luxury of the winning team a lot of times. So I want guys that in half PPR formats can rack up 100 yards on the ground, can have all these big situations. And for me, one of the big things for Mixon is we saw in the Super Bowl, they left Samaje Perine in there at the end of the game, and he didn't get the first down on 3rd and 1, and then he didn't catch the pass on 4th down, and they lost the game. So I imagine Zach Taylor even came out and said, the running back coach, I think his last name's Johnson, came up to him and said, should we switch Mixon in here? And he made the call not to do it, and they lost the Super Bowl. So for me, if I'm Zach Taylor, like, there's no chance that I'm letting that happen again. I'm making sure that Joe Mixon's on the field for every high leverage situation. So for me, Mixon is a guy that's so safe in this format because it's a good team and he gets all the important plays.
Yep, for sure. We'll get Sam back in here in just a sec. But it's a clean sweep for Joe Mixon. Like, it's kind of wild. And I've been thinking about, this running back tier of guys. I mean, it's we got your back, Sam.
We thought maybe the Lightning scored again and you just ascended up to heaven.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That has actually never happened. That my computer just full on just crashed. It all went black. So
Do you know what's funny too is that you had blinked right when it happened, so it kind of looked like you maybe fell asleep. I was like, Jesus, my mix and take that boring.
Finally, someone says it.
God, Coop, stop talking.
No, definitely not. I was over here being like, yeah, more.
More mixing,
Bringing the vibe,
Going
you
on.
know.
All right, cool. You got so excited that you like kind of unplugged your computer by accident. I get it. That's actually not the first time that's happened. They've been like, wow,
Let's just pray this doesn't happen again.
this take is scorching hot.
I know, right? Yeah, it's a clean sweep for Mixon, for me.
Yeah.
Everybody has been wondering, when's Mixon going to put it together? You know, the dude's always hurt, blah 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 blah. But he finally put it together in 2021, RB3, or actually RB4 in full PPR. I mean, dude had almost 300 carries. You know, he didn't really ramp up the receiving work, but didn't have to because the dude scored 16 touchdowns. So, you know, this is an ascending offense in Cincinnati. You want that running back. They're going to be living in the red zone. So, I mean, just give me Joe Mixon. And I love DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift is like one of the guys that I think can certainly vault up to, you know, maybe that top 3, top 4 kind of, if Lions show some improvement and DeAndre Swift can stay healthy and he gets the receiving work that we're all projecting him for. But I mean, Joe Mixon put it all together and, you know, kind of got to roll with that while that is happening here. So we'll go through one more and then we will give away the Scott Fishbowl spot and we'll stay in the running back position. Leonard Fournette and Saquon Barkley, 2 running backs that one might be left for dead. One was left for dead a couple years ago till he landed in Tampa Bay. And now he's pretty much a set and forget borderline RB1. Coop, since we haven't led off with you, Fournette and Barkley, who you got?
Yeah, man. I'm glad we brought Sam on for the tough show during the NHL finals. Like the shows so far, Sam, in the offseason have been like, who's your favorite player? You know, and we bring Sam on and we're like, all right, pick between these guys. They're going back to back in ADP, right? It's like, yeah, so right. you got the lucky one here. For me, I'm going Leonard Fournette, man. And it's a lot of it is what I just talked about with you know, the winning team and the who's going to have the best opportunities. Daniel Jones over the last 2 years has thrown more. He has more turnovers than he has touchdowns. The Giants they were dead last in offensive touchdowns both years. They were tied with the Jets 1 year, but they've been at least last or tied for last, which is brutal. Like this team, I don't think they're going to all of a sudden just become an amazing team. You know, and people talk about the age with Leonard Fournette. I mean, he's 27. Think about, do you think Tom Brady thinks Leonard Fournette is old? He thinks he's like a child. He's a youngin'. But I mean, Brady is what? He's 17 years older than him. So it's not like a situation where they're going to look at it and say, yeah, this guy's old. He's washed. I think Fournette's going to be just fine. And I still like picking Barkley. It's just, I have to take, me personally, I take the guys that I think are in the best position versus the volatile guys, and I'm going to take Fournette before I take Barkley, just like I'm going to take Mixon before I take Swift. Even though if you switch the teams, if you took the players and switched the teams, I would take the other guy. Like if you put Swift on the Bengals or you put Barkley on the Bucks, I would take the other player. That's how close these guys are.
Britt, Sam, what are you?
So I'll defer to our guest.
All right. Yeah, no, it's Fournette for me, and this one's actually not that close. 27, yeah, I get that, and there's sort of like some reports that he may be fat Lenny again. I don't want to like fat shame or anything, but like there's like some reports that he's maybe a little out of shape, but I'm not super concerned about that. And him being 27, like, yeah, that's a little bit old for a running back at this point, but there's also like a lot of tread left on the tires because there's a couple seasons there where he really just did not play full seasons. So I think RB11 is just really low for a guy that finished as RB5 and half PPR, less competition, arguably. Like Rashad White, they added during the draft, but there's like some reports that maybe he's like not a good blocker, which could definitely impact his playing time. Credit where credit is due for the Giants. Like they had a decent draft for once. I think it took Dave Gettleman leaving for them to have a good draft, but like they had a decent draft. They've made some improvements. Daniel Jones is not as bad as I think like people make him out to be. But all that said, like you cannot argue that you think like the Giants are going to be in more positive game scripts for the run than the Bucks. So I'm the opportunity and kind of everything there. It's really Fournette by a lot.
Yep, I'm of the same opinion as both of you guys. I mean, Rashad White, people have said that, oh, he's going to come in and be the passing down back, but I just really don't see that because last season, Tom Brady consistently used Fournette in the passing game. He ranked third in targets amongst all running backs. Like Brady gets him the ball. They pass the ball more than any other team in the entire league. And Brady spreads it out. Like he's never been one to hone in on one receiver or the other. And again, Tampa Bay is a better team than New York. And Saquon has had some pretty severe injuries and, high ankle sprains. I don't care if it was a freak injury or what, but they're very hard to come back from. And they nag and they linger. And I would just rather take the guy who's in a better offense and better overall health. I don't care about his age. This is redraft, not dynasty.
I mean, I would kill to be 27 right now. I mean, you kidding me? I'm 37. I would give everything to be 27 again with the knowledge I have now. But we're all agreeing with each other. I mean, I do like Fournette, but I'm going to make the bull case for Saquon Barkley. They've actually put, pieces around this offense to, it's basically the Bills' brain trust. I mean, Joe Shane, general manager, former offensive coordinator, Brian Daboll is the head coach. Mike Kafka, who is Patrick Mahomes' quarterback coach for Daniel Jones. Shea Tierney, who coached Josh Allen as assistant quarterback coach in Buffalo. They're putting pieces around this offense. And I think that still Saquon Barkley, when everything is going right, he is going to be the guy that this offense builds around. It's not going to be because of Daniel Jones' arm. I think he's going to be more of a compliment to Saquon Barkley, but I think Saquon Barkley, I don't think he just became bad. I mean, we would all be terrible with Jason Garrett, calling plays. And then when he got fired, was it Freddie Kitchens was calling plays? Like that was a ghost ship, Coop. Like that entire thing was a ghost ship. So I really like Saquon. I don't think Saquon Barkley is going to get right back to 2018 Saquon Barkley, where the dude was averaging 24 fantasy points per game. But if the dude can get back up to 17, 18 with some receiving work, I mean, if you're getting him at the turn, the 2-3 turn, at the beginning of the third round, give me 2 wide receivers and then Saquon Barkley, and I'm very happy.
100. I mean, that's the thing. These are tough because they're back-to-back players and you have to pick one. But a lot of these ones, I would take both players. So it's if I had the swing, I would love going Leonard and Barkley. It's just I got to take Leonard first before I take somebody risky like Barkley. And it's a shame that his career has gone the way that it has for him to be a risky player, because when you see his attitude, his work ethic, all that stuff, he really shouldn't be a risky player, so way she goes. But I have all confidence that both these guys are going to be pretty good this year.
Right. Yeah. Dude says all the right things, does all the right things. It's that he's an easy guy to root for. So we'll play that narrative here. Let's give away a Scott Fishbowl spot, because I know a lot of people are waiting for that to happen. So let me pull this up. I did have it here because I'm super smart and removed the tab.
You had it on the screen before. Hey, there it is.
There it is. That is pretty well. So let us go to full screen.
Let's kind of hit the names on the right, just if you don't mind, just kind of because I can't see them. Love you.
Give everyone a little shout out.
Yeah, a little. No, yeah, everyone. No,
all the 73 people. Britt, you can do that.
Just zoom in. I'm saying just zoom in.
You shout them out. Me and Sam are going to watch hockey, and then we'll meet you guys back here at say midnight.
Yeah, well, I'll text you, Coop. I'll let you know when to come back in. So, yeah, I will. All right. Now I got a boomer. I'm not as good as Pete with the whole size of the screen.
Scott, this isn't my spot. I'm actually giving away your spot, Scott. So you might need to get in some raffles moving forward, bud.
Watch him win it. And I'm going to,
So Scott's already in.
Winning,
Scott's in.
Oh, he is?
I'm saying he's got to get a new one because we're giving his away right now. So, all right, for Scott's spot in the Scott Fishbowl.
Ooh, it even has sound effects. I love it.
That's Billy and Crab. The Billy and the Crab, dude. That's such a good one. Awesome.
That's
man.
awesome. You are in Scott Fishbowl 12. Coop, I'm since you did the post, I'm gonna let you send that over to Scott and
I will.
Billy and the Crab. That
Billy, dude, that's great, man. Because that's somebody who, you know, they're a fan of the show, fan of the work. They're around all the time, you know. They're not,
Yep.
and I don't blame anybody for just hanging out, trying to get in the Scott Fishbowl. But he's been around too, so that's a great one, man. I'll shout out Billy, dude. You're the man.
Yep, we
Yeah,
appreciate
congrats.
everybody. Absolutely, congratulations. Last year we had, I believe it was at Uptown Waterloo, got in, did pretty well. So it's up to you to win the thing now, and give us a shout out when you do.
Carry on the lightning round name
That's right.
in the tradition of Gary Haddow.
That's right. Yeah, Gary in the chat, of course. Scott Fishbowl 9 winner, partner in crime. Miss you on these airwaves, buddy, but we're keeping on. Let's go to wide receivers. My favorite. I've never drafted a running back in my life. Sam hates me for it. But we got to do what we got to do here, and different strokes. Let's go with T. Higgins versus AJ Brown, and I guess I will lead this off. And I don't really know. If you guys know me, you already know who I'm taking. It's T. Higgins. T. Higgins is just, yes, he's a wide receiver too on his own team, but he compares favorably well with Jamar Chase. Outscored him in weeks 11 through 18 with target share, targets per game, receptions per game, every reception or receiving yards per game. So, I mean, if you want a wide receiver, potential wide receiver overall number one in the the 2-3 turn, you can't go wrong with T. Higgins. I mean, I like AJ Brown too. I just don't know if he's going to be able to get the maximum what we want as far as like 150 160 targets in that notoriously run heavy Philadelphia Eagles offense. Though them getting him could spell a bit of a change more toward the pass. So I'm going to take T. Higgins pretty much every time. I'm taking him in the mid second just because I'm an animal and that's just what I do. But yeah, I mean, T. Higgins can't go wrong.
Isn't that your team name in the league that we play in together? Hi, T. Higgins.
Yeah, it is actually. I'll have to drive some more running backs because I don't know how my team, that IDP monster, I think I ended up like still 500, and I have no idea how because my team sucked.
What a shocker!
I had to like rope Kev. I not like I had to really rope him into this, but like I think he agreed to it without knowing that this league is like an absolute monster.
IDP auction.
Yeah. It's 7 IDP spots and like super deep benches, 16 teams, and yeah, it's salary cap format. So it is. It's a fun one, I think. It's the first league that I ever played in, but yeah, it's time consuming. The draft alone takes about like 4.5 hours.
Jeez, that's the first league you played in. You started on hard mode. That is no
I had
joke.
no idea. I just thought that was like what fantasy was.
Yeah. Everyone, you started off. Yeah, that's ridiculous. It's like, yeah, you started off playing like high stakes Texas Hold'em, and everyone else started off playing like 52 pickup. Like the first league I played in, it was like 1 QB, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a defense. So
yeah, and Sam's playing with Doyle Brunson.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, but I'm not surprised at all that high T. Higgins with the T. Higgins jersey behind him picked T. Higgins. But I will say, all homerism aside, I'm also picking T. Higgins. I think that we saw last year a highly consolidated target share among the top 2 guys. Tyler Boyd used to be a guy that would play as the flanker and then move to slot for 3 wide receiver sets. Now he comes off the field. He's a different guy. The 1,000-yard seasons are probably a thing of the past at this point. And they didn't really change much. I mean, I don't think Hayden Hurst is that big of an upgrade over CJ Uzoma. So I expect it to be the same. Whereas AJ Brown goes into a situation where they threw the ball the 4th fewest times in the league. Dallas Goedert's still there. Devonta Smith is still there. Jalen Hurts still a mobile guy. They got all this whole stable of running backs. It's just such a high risk situation for me. Like, I like AJ Brown. He's an explosive guy. If he can get beyond the injuries, I'm sure he's going to be, one of the better players for years to come. But we need Jalen Hurts to take that step forward, and that I'm not sure about. So give me Higgins with Joe Burrow Boom. Britt, you're up.
So I'm going to buy into the best friends narrative here and go with AJ Brown. I mean, we talked a little bit about it earlier. And Kevin, I'm really sorry for what I'm about to say about T. Higgins. I felt bad writing it in my notes to get ready for the show. But I really don't think that the Eagles would have traded for AJ Brown if they weren't going to adjust their offense to be a little less run heavy. And T. Higgins, it's kind of a couple really interesting nuggets about his stats last year. He was number 12 in actual fantasy points per game, but number 7 in expected fantasy points per game with a negative 2.53 differential per game. And to me, that kind of caps his upside, especially as a wide receiver 2 in a mid-range passing volume team. Higgins was also number 3 in catchable target rate, but only number 34 in actual catch rate. AJ Brown, on the other hand, was number 67 in catchable target rate. Side note, just how terrible Ryan Tannehill was. But he was number 60 in catch rate. So he did make some plays on some balls he shouldn't have. And now he's getting a slight upgrade at quarterback in Jalen Hurts. And Brown was also number 7 in yards per route run and fantasy points per route run. So that to me shows that he has some upside, especially in a system that went out of their way to trade for him, to give him a quarterback who's kind of in a prove it situation at this point in the game. And so although it's close for me, I think that I would rather take Brown and his possible upside and him being a wide receiver 1 and just see what he can do on this Eagles offense.
Are we sure that Jalen Hurts is a passing upgrade over Ryan Tannehill?
That is actually something that I was like curious about. That was an interesting comment.
That's the
That's
question.
Tannehill to die on.
Oh my God. I mean, he's not like leaps and bounds ahead of him, but I think he's better for sure.
Could be. He very well might be. He very well might become that, Britt, because he hasn't been so far, but he might become better.
Yeah.
I could see it. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, it was interesting because I was in it's going to sound like a brag, but it's not a brag, but I was in the media room at the NFL draft when this all was going down, when the trade was happening, and I was freaking out. And it is obviously quite the endorsement of AJ Brown for them to really go out on a limb and get him. But, they do have talented other pass catchers there. Devonta Smith is incredible, and Dallas Goedert and everything like that. And that combined with maybe me not being as rosy as Britt is on Jalen Hurts, as much as I love Jalen Hurts. So I'm really going to go with T. Higgins here. Higgins, better quarterback. I mean, I don't think we're going to argue that Hurts is better than Burrow or anything like that. And also like the targets were just there last year. He saw 7.9 targets per game to Chase's 7.5. Chase is obviously an explosive monster for fantasy and all of that. He's like the sexiest name, but Higgins is still up there. And I think they proved last year that they can really sustain 2 wide receiver ones.
All right. When I heard Britt say that, the first thing that came to my mind when she really pigeoned herself into that Jalen Hurts take was,
whoa, that person has really gotten him or herself into quite a predicament.
I had to find a way to use that one because I don't think we've used that one. All right. So we're going to go with a rookie here versus everybody's favorite Twitter darling, Drake London versus Britt's child, Amon-Ra St. Brown.
He's not my child. I liked him last year in his situation. I fully acknowledge that he is not in a good situation this year.
You went to the courthouse and you adopted Amon-Ra St. Brown. Just admit it.
I fostered him.
And you also changed your name to Britt Flynn St. Brown. You should put your nickname Britt Flynn up there. I noticed.
The canonization.
Okay, Britt, I was all about that. I was all about Amon-Ra St. Brown last year. I would have adopted him as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Co-parenting. All right, BFSB. Who are you taking this year then? Out of these two, BFSB.
I really wrote this in the notes, and I was like, Kevin is trolling me here because he wants to make a joke about me forcing me to take somebody over ARSB because I did love him so much last season, but things change. I mean, we've kind of talked about this before. The Lions added Chark, Jameson Williams, Quintez Cephas, and Josh Reynolds are back. Hawkinson's back. Swift is back. And when Swift was healthy, he saw a 16%, or ARSB saw a 16% target share. Like, it just was not great. Like, there's too much to spread around in this offense. And I don't think this offense is going to be particularly good. They're going to be playing from behind a lot, but I just don't see it. Then you look at Drake London, and he's basically the only targets on a bad Atlanta team that should be playing from behind and throwing a ton. You've got Kyle Pitts, but aside from that, I really hate Mariota as the quarterback. So that kind of makes me iffy on London. But I mean, when you're talking about the kind of target share that he's just going to get force fed, that's London's the guy for me.
What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, it's really the quarterback for me. I mean, not like Goff is not much. I don't know where you would even put them. Like
the lesser of two evils at this point.
Yeah,
it's not exciting, either of them. But London also coming off of a fractured ankle, something to take into account. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, I mean, obviously Jamison Williams is going to be a star. Like, he was one of my favorite receivers coming out of this class. Like, he should have been the first one taken. I think he has 4.3 speed. He's an absolute monster, but there's a really good chance that he misses like 6 games this year. So I think it'll still be a lot of targets for Amon-Ra St. Brown for at least the beginning of the year. Whereas like London coming off the injury could take a little bit of time to ramp up. I'm like pretty high on London. So these are really, really close to me. I'm just going to probably lean St. Brown, especially just because of how amazing he was towards the end of the season. I mean, final 6 games and half PPR, 2 receivers were better than him. That was Cooper Kupp and Devontae Adams.
Those guys are pretty good.
I can't abandon my child, so.
We have a custody battle now?
It looks like. Or we just agreed. We just signed
Tune in for the thrilling conclusion.
Well, I can certainly abandon him, and I will, because I'm not a big Amon-Ra St. Brown guy. I think that, last year what he did, it was great, but the way he did it, I really didn't like very much. Out of all the catches he had, only 17 came versus man-to-man, just running super low 7-yard A-dot routes. And in a lot of those games, it was like, you're playing against the Seahawks and you're losing 51-29. They don't care how much you dump it down, right? What he did to me is no different than what Tyler Higbee did with Jared Goff in 2019. So I look at this situation and the type of guy he is, and he obviously offers a decent floor because he's going to get those dump offs, but he needed to get double-digit targets a bunch of times to even crack 100 yards. So when you add Swift, you add Hawk, you add DJ Chark, you add Jamison, to me, it just becomes a situation where now he's not going to get 10, 12 targets, which in the games, even some of the games he was getting 12 targets, he was only getting 80, 90 yards. So in a format like this, where it's best ball, give me Drake London, especially if it's a big tournament. I could see an argument if you're playing just like a 12-team league that you want to just go with the safer guy, or if you have a build that's heavy on running backs and you need guys that are going to fill out the lineup. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to be in a lot of lineups, but is he going to be in a lot of tournament-winning lineups? Especially because, as Sam pointed out, early in the season he's probably going to be better than he is late in the season, assuming that Jamison Williams is as good as we think he is, and he was. I mean, I'm with you, Sam. I had him. I sent out a tweet before where I said, this guy was the best wide receiver in college. If a team treats him like that in the draft, then I will be confident. And that's exactly what happened. So I'm very confident in Jamison Williams. He's arguably still my number 1 wide receiver for Dynasty. So for me, Drake London just feels like a higher upside proposition, even though I think all of us would agree the floor is lower for Drake London. Right. So again, you got to think about the format you're in. If this were a very deep league with 3 wide receivers, it was full PPR and 2 flexes or something like that, then Amon-Ra St. Brown is probably somebody that's going to be in your lineup every single week. It's just for a half PPR, boom bust, high upside format like underdog. I would rather have Drake London. So
yeah, and I've also been answering all of these in more of the redraft sense.
Okay.
I might give Drake London the edge in like a underdog format.
At best ball, yeah, because it's these are, when you have ADPs like this, you're always going to have those questions, and that's why the most important thing really needs to be consider your format for a lot of these questions, because there's some of these guys, they're very similar and they're and you're splitting hairs, but some of these guys, like the Swift Mixon one, to me, if it's PPR, I'm ranking them differently. If it's half PPR, I'm ranking them differently, and same goes with these guys where ARSB is that kind of low A dot guy that could still rack up targets, but I think Drake London's the kind of guy that could give you those spike weeks. And this, if it's a underdog discussion, then that's where I'm at. And if it's an underdog discussion, you should be using promo code ALARM when you sign up. If you're not signed up, get a sign up now. They'll match up to $100 on your first deposit. So,
Dude, that was so smooth.
yes, better than last week where I was telling people to, wherever you go, just plug in ALARM. We got promo codes all over. We got the Cheesecake Factory.
Cheesecake Factory.
Tell your waitress. So yeah, sometimes my ads are good, sometimes they're not so good. But I just hope there are people this weekend that went to the Cheesecake Factory and they were like, yeah, by the way, does promo code ALARM get me anything? And they're just like, nah, dude.
Yeah, like I wrote the word alarm on the tip line. Like, does that get me anything?
It saves you the tip, bro.
Besides getting your leftovers thrown in the trash.
That's the promo code. You write alarm on the tip, and then you don't have to pay a tip. That's
see how that works out. By the way, as an aside, shout out to Coop for paying for a few of my drinks when he was in town, and I got to meet his fiance and everything, and it was really awesome. So it's always super fun to meet people in real life. Like, I didn't go to the expo or anything last year. I am going this year, so I hope to meet a lot of you guys. I assume you guys are going. I don't know.
I'm going. I didn't go.
We're rocking it.
The Lightning House, baby.
Lightning House.
We'll give you the address. Use promo code ALARM at the door for a free free glass of jungle juice. That's going to be the offer this year. So
I'm just giving you the endorsement that you're very normal and cool.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I mean,
I'm always afraid, people could be weird.
Could be weird. Yeah, I show up and I just start talking politics right off the bat. No, it was. And that's the thing is, I'm always willing to pay for drinks because and I always ask that when I go anywhere because it's like meeting with you for 10 minutes told me everything that I needed to know about Breckenridge for the next couple of days we were there. So I didn't need to do research or Google. It's like I had the travel guide right there, and only it cost me a couple pops. So pretty good deal.
Yeah, and Scott does pose a good question here: is Sam buying around for everyone?
I think
unlikely.
I think everyone that didn't.
Is that everyone in all 8 billion people
on the planet?
I would buy you guys around. I'll buy you guys around at the expo.
Everyone that didn't win the Scott Fishbowl invite gets one. So I think it's 72 people. Billy, sorry, unfortunately you don't get a drink because you won. But everyone else at Sam, she'll take care of it. We'll make the arrangements after the show.
Yeah, she'll just put promo code ALARM on the tip.
I'm not even like putting down my card. I'm just writing alarm.
That's right. I'm telling you, some of these websites. I mean, if you go on like Prize
you're gonna write that, and somebody's gonna like call the cops thinking you're in trouble.
Yahoo DFS, it works over there. Prize Picks, So I mean, I just start plugging it in, see what happens.
Amazon, why not? So I mean, I'm gonna go with Drake London. I mean, between him and Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think this left side of the screen has been very vocal on the anti Amon-Ra St. Brown been that kind of contingent since January, February. I mean, Drake London in 8 games last year, he averaged 11 catches, 135 yards receiving, and almost a touchdown a game at USC before that right ankle fracture. So, I mean, clearly Atlanta, they have a type. They went out and got Brian Edwards. They drafted Drake London. They have Kyle Pitts, Auden Tate, Ian Harditz's favorite, his son, Auden Tate. So, I mean, right, they clearly have some kind of size issue, size fetish, whatever you want to say, however you want to say it. But this is devolving very quickly. But I'm going to take Drake London just because I think the bull case for the Atlanta Falcons offense is that these guys with size, whether it's Ritter, whether it's Mariota, the offense could take a step because when you're taking a step with Russell Gage and Olamide Zaccheaus and Frank Darby and all these guys from the end of last year, this offense was just horrible. And Matt Ryan was scared straight to Indianapolis. So, good luck, but Drake London, I think they're really building something with that offense. And You know, in a post-apocalyptic, post-Calvin Ridley Atlanta Falcons team. I think there's some pieces there that I'm very attracted to. I don't know if I really want to touch him on St. Brown at cost, because he is going as wide receiver 33 on Underdog. Don't want to touch that. So given the upside of Drake London, I just think he has, much more upside.
The Falcons
about Drake London. I am really psyched about him. All about the build. I mean, he profiles exactly like Julio Jones, who obviously had a ton of success in that system. He's got that like basketball type build. So it's given, you know, this wide receivers class was really stacked, but there were a number of guys that were kind of like undersized that I'm concerned about. Like, how is I don't know, Garrett Wilson going to stack up against press coverage and all of that. Obviously, you don't have those same concerns with a guy like Drake London. So I'm super psyched about him, especially for Dynasty.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, like, the Falcons, I feel like the way they're going about things is as a organization is kind of the opposite of the way I would do it. I mean, I love how the Lions and the Dolphins went and you get the line, you get the quarterback, and then you get the weapons. Like, these guys are like, yeah, let's just make sure.
Like Kyle Pitts, gimme, like,
right, yeah, let's get all these weapons first, and then by the time we get a quarterback in line, we'll have to pay them $30 million a year. It'll work perfect, right? That's the way. That's the formula that everyone's using, right? It's like
it's like buying the curtains for your house that like they haven't poured the foundation.
That's the perfect analogy, dude. It's like ridiculous.
It's like they watch. It's like they watched the Bengals get Jamar Chase to add to T. Higgins. They're like, all right, well, we could do this, except the Falcons were just god-awful hot garbage in every single way outside of those wide receivers.
I mean, it was an interesting, like, little experiment to see what it's like to have a team with 0 wide receivers. And, like, pretty much go ship. Yeah, that's what it felt like. I mean, I didn't have Cordero Patterson breakout on my bingo card last year, so that was cool to see that. But they obviously
the Cordero Patterson breakout was like at the first week of practice. They were like, "All right, who here has played football before?" And like Cordero Patterson raised his hand, and they're like, "All right, you're the star."
Kadri Allison just walks off.
Kyle Pitts is like.
I mean, how bad it was, like, did Javian Hawkins have to be to, like, lose his job to Mike Davis, like, lose a battle to Mike Davis? Like, that team is just so garbage last year.
Ridiculous, dude. Ridiculous. So, and that's the thing, like, even the Bengals at least drafted Jonah Williams in the first round before they started doing all that stuff. You know, it's like, you gotta start there. That's why I like what the Lions are doing. You know, it's just that the progression of teams that do what the Lions do is not good for Amon-Ra St. Brown over the long term. Because we've seen guys have monster years on these skeleton crews, and the next thing you know, they go and get, you know, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and not even Devontae Parker makes it through. So it's like, still, we're like, where did Preston Williams go? Well, that's what happens with these rebuilds. So you worry about guys like 4th round guys like that. So, but enough bashing on Amon-Ra St. Brown for now. Because I know you ladies, I don't mean to offend. You know,
it'll loop back around, I'm sure, next week and the week after that, and probably the week after that.
Are the tall receivers for the Falcons like their red sports car?
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
The midlife crisis.
Yeah, they just need something like flashy to have to compensate. Like, oh, don't pay no attention to the fact that the rest of the team's on fire.
Exactly. Then they change their jerseys. It all makes sense now, really. This is jersey sales. I mean, I'm sure they're going to sell a bunch of them. So
I will just give us an update. It is still 3-3, Tampa and Colorado. 14 minutes left in the third period. For those of you who are Stanley Cup Game 1 hunting, I know the person in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen is definitely going in there. So we will obviously provide more updates there, but we have one more star-studded matchup here in Coop's neck of the woods. Pat Freiermuth. It's kind of hard to say really fast. And Mike Gesicki. Those are two guys that we really have not talked about. That, I mean, we've talked about the elite tight ends. We've talked about, Coop's children and Zach Ertz and Evan Ingram and all these others. Everybody has kids. I guess T. Higgins is my kid if I'm gonna, adopt a kid.
You're T. Higgins' kid, dude. That dude is a monster. it'd be like, you'd be like, all right, I'm taking you to school. And then you would like hop on his shoulders and just like.
I have no idea. Like Kevin could be just as big as T. Higgins for all I know.
Could be.
I have 5'10" energy. So I mean that's a nice callback to the randomizer. But yes, I am actually 5'10". So I am taller than Tutu Atwell.
You're taller than, yeah. You would tower over Rondell Moore.
Tariq Cohen. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Pretty much.
5'5" or something. No, there's
Rondell Moore is like twice as wide as me. Like that dude is a muscle hamster.
A muscle hamster.
Coop. Pat Frymuth and Mike Gesicki. Like I said, we haven't talked about these guys because we've been talking about kind of the barbell approach to tight end, where it's the studs and the late guys. But we haven't done a lot in the middle of, this tight end 12, tight end 13 range. So kick us off, Frymuth or Gesicki.
Yeah, so with this situation, this is kind of the opposite of what I was talking about with Fournette and Barkley, where with Fournette and Barkley, I'm like just happy to get either of them. With these guys, I'm not drafting either of them. I just don't find myself taking them. And you can put Dallas Goedert in there as well, because with some of these price ranges, we look at the history of tight ends that have finished top 5 or 6, right? And the vast majority of them have either led their team in targets or at least been second. We're talking about guys that were third targets on their team. Only 2 of them have been in the top 5 over the last decade or so. Robert Tonyan with his 11 touchdowns, and then like 2014 Martellus Bennett. So pretty much all these guys are being one of the focal points of their offenses, which is bad news for Goddard. If you like Smith and you like AJ Brown, it's bad news for Frymuth if you like Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson and George Pickens and things like that. And it's also bad news for Mike Gesicki. I mean, it's almost like people weren't in the media room with Sam when these trades went down. They just missed it completely because Tyreek Hill's in town. So is AJ Brown. It's like we're drafting these guys like we were last year. Like, what's the difference between the situation these guys are in and a situation for a guy like Gerald Everett, who I don't particularly even love Gerald Everett, but he's the third target and he's catching balls from Justin Herbert. So we're going to rush out and get the third target catching balls from Tua or Jalen Hurts. I mean, it boggles my mind. So I guess I can't just say don't draft any of them, even though I just did, and that's what I believe. But if I have to pick somebody, I'll pick Mike Gesicki. And I'll pick him simply because his usage and what he does translates better to targets. He plays 90% of his snaps in the slot. Somebody came up to him last year on tight end day and they said, happy tight end day. And he was like, yeah, happy big slot wide receiver day. Like he wouldn't even acknowledge the tight endness, right? So for me, I'm going to go that route. I think that, and like I mentioned earlier, the Eagles threw the ball the 4th least times in the league. Even if you think that they threw more this year, you don't go from bottom 4 to top 5 overnight. Whereas I think that the Dolphins with their situation, they kind of built this team to have to throw, So I'm taking Gesicki here. I wouldn't. Why am I talking about Dallas Goedert? Pat Fryer. I went off the rails.
You're just so upset we're talking about Mike.
What?
Yeah. So Pat Fryer, the same thing. It's like he's got an even worse quarterback than Jalen Hurts, right? Like we unless we think that Kenny Pickett's going to come and run away with the job, we don't think Mitch Trubisky is just going to all of a sudden be amazing, do we? Like it's not a great situation for a guy that's the 3rd target on the team. So I'm kind of putting them all together because I lump them all together like that. But if I'm taking anybody from this group, it'll be Gesicki. I'm just not super high on either one. And maybe you guys have a rhyme or reason that you think one should be above the other. And I'm definitely interested to hear it because, again, I just haven't been getting too into these guys because they miss on some big qualifiers right from the jump for me. I don't know. What do you guys think?
We're just still stunned that you threw Goddard under there. I think our brains are a little like, what?
It's just like I went off the rails because I was just all these guys to me are the same. Like it's like which guy could be the 2nd target on their team? That's my question here. Out of this crew is like you have to try and find somebody, and that's why it's like Hawk or maybe Schultz that you can make those arguments for this whole group of guys. I'm just like, nah.
I feel like
Well-
you could make the argument for. Sorry, Britt.
No, go for it. No, go for it.
Make an argument for Goddard. We might as well throw him in there.
Why am I talking about Dallas Goedert? No, but I feel like you could make the argument for Freiermuth more than Gesicki to be that number 2 target if that's your logic. Just because like I just don't see Gesicki being the number 2, like leapfrogging somehow Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill at that point. And right now, I think ADP has, excuse me, Hill and Waddle both as like wide receiver 1s, and Mike Gesicki kind of as a fringe tight end 1. And it's like, with Tua's passing prowess, I feel like there's got to be some kind of odd man out a little bit. And I think Gesicki's going to take a hit in terms of targets. I mean, last season, like they were back to back in terms of points per game. And that's Freiermuth's first season. We always talk about tight ends not being really great right out of the gate in terms of especially in terms of fantasy. So I was really high on Freiermuth last year, and I'm going to continue to be high on him. I mean, he obviously had to do, like, we're talking about Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky. Like, I don't know. I feel like they're probably upgrades from Ben Roethlisberger, like, as he was last year. I mean, he was 30th in QBR, 30th in like 32nd in yards per attempt. I mean, he ranked near the bottom or at the bottom in pretty much every passing category. So yeah, I mean, give me Freiermuth at that point. But yeah, to your point, Coop, like I love any of these guys. I don't feel excited about it. Like I hope that either I get a really good tight end or I'm just like last round I'll figure out tight end or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. I'm in the same boat. I'm not excited really about either. And that kind of hurts my heart too, because I really was all in on Freiermuth last year. But hypothetically, let's say that Kenny Pickett does take over as the quarterback. So last year at Pittsburgh, Pickett's top 2 tight ends combined for 66 receptions, 777 receiving yards, and 10 touchdowns in 13 games. So Pickett has definitely shown a preference for targeting his tight ends. I mean, you still have Deontay Johnson in that mix, but then you've got George Pickens, who's a rookie. And then, I mean, Freiermuth's going to be the number 2 in that situation, right? So we talked about Gesicki. He's definitely not going to leapfrog Hill or Waddle. And then plus you throw in Mike McDaniel and his preference for running the ball in this hugely crowded backfield. Like, just how much are they going to throw the ball? And so I see a really limited target share for Gesicki. I would much rather go with, a tight end 19 and Hunter Henry, or even Evan Ingram that we've talked about, when it's kind of, this is the tight end dead zone that we're talking about right here. So yeah, I don't know.
Yep, that was literally what I was going to say, is that I'm looking at tight ends 11 through 15. We're talking about Gronk, Freiermuth, Gesicki, Irv Smith, and Robert Tonyan. I mean, those are like 11th through 13th, 14th round tight ends that I have no, like I posted last night, my highest ADPs that I have zero exposure to, and one of them was Mike Gesicki, just because I'm not taking these guys. I would rather have the early guys. I have 50% elite tight ends as far as like my exposures, but other than that, I'll just piece it together. If you're gonna have to make a choice between Freiermuth or Gesicki, I guess, I mean, I would say Gesicki has more of the profile that you want for scoring fantasy points. Freiermuth probably has the best non-injury case to be the second target in the offense, though both cases are kind of grasping at straws. I mean, what you got out of Freiermuth last year was pretty good. I mean, a lot of people compared him to Heath Miller, like this old Steelers tight end. He is, if we're just doing the father-son narrative this entire show, Pat Freiermuth is Heath Miller's son, and he plays like it. And he's probably going to be that not very special, but good enough tight end 8 for the rest of his career. I just don't see him jumping into that, that Kelsey, Andrews, that rarefied air of elite tight ends that you got to take in the first 5 rounds. I don't see that for Freiermuth, but I think he's solid enough. But if I'm going to take a shot on one of these guys to at least be something in fantasy where I can start him and know I've at least got a shred of upside, it's going to be Gesicki every time.
Yeah, to Britt's point, I was thinking like, yeah, I just maybe toss them both and punt on like Alberto much later or something like that.
Yeah.
Just because that's, I mean, yeah, at that point, I just rather like take a flyer on a different position player. And yeah, I mean, ideally you get one of the elite guys, but not all drafts kind of work out that way. So yeah, I'd rather just like take later round guys than one of these two.
Yeah.
You get an elite guy and you reach 2 rounds above ADP for it.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
I
how
talked
we
about
do around here.
I talked about
How
my
early is too early for Kyle Pitts? As a Kyle Pitts like apologist,
I'm in.
I've taken him at the 2-3 turn. That's as early as I'd go. I wouldn't take him in the second. I would only get him in the 2-3 turn because I know I'm not going to have a chance at him otherwise.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. It's like Kelsey, Andrews, Pitts. Like if you can get them in the third round or so, like even I'll take them just because it's just such a difference maker. After
Prove
that,
it, Coop. You ain't taking him. You haven't taken an elite tight end since the Carter administration.
Like I said, dude, if Pitts is there in the 7th round, I was slam picked. So, it's easy for me. But yeah, no, I mean, like what I'm doing mostly in redraft at this point is, we've talked about this enough, but I take Zach Ertz, right? I wait and take Ertz because I know I can start him for 6 weeks while Hopkins is suspended. And then I use my bench spot to try and find this year's breakout, which that's what we do every year. Is like we go through and talk about who has that upside, who could be this year's Andrews or Waller. So it's kind of, I'm doing it anyway. So I might as well, for our readers and our listeners, so I might as well do it in practice as well. So it's like, I like doing that and having, and you can do that with any of these guys. My advice to anyone is if you do take any of these players, Freiermuth, Goddard, Gesicki, start them week 1, but have somebody with high upside on your bench, high risk, high upside. So like Evan Ingram, even if week 1, it turns out he's not involved at all, drop him, go for the next guy, go for Brevin Jordan, go for David Njoku. See if you can find somebody that can catch lightning in a bottle and either lead their team in targets or be second. Of this crew, I kind of like what Sam said. I mean, now that I look back on it, the easiest argument to make is probably for Freiermuth over Claypool. Claypool's been in the doghouse. He just barely kind of had 100 targets there. So that seems more possible than Gesicki over Hill or Waddle. Like it seems insurmountable given the kind of routes that Waddle runs. Like obviously you're going to throw it to Waddle more than Gesicki, and then Tyreek Hill is Tyreek Hill. So.
Yeah, that was pretty much the entire that was the tight end state of the union we pretty much just had there.
I hate them all. Thank you. Thank you and good night. Use promo code alarm.
We're gonna get people in the chat saying like abolish tight end, like the people that are saying abolish kickers and abolish, team, defenses. So good job.
Gary's got it.
Yes, Gary. Absolutely.
Yes, I agree.
Yep.
We clearly we are all team Hunter Hen Dog.
There's a lot of hunters in the hen house tonight. That's that's what I'm saying, I guess. I don't know.
That's right.
All right, well, let's go watch some hockey.
Yeah, it is still 3-3, 6 minutes left. So we're gonna exit stage right here. The hen house is gonna be closing up shop, at least for the night here. But Sam, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. Let us know where you can find all your stuff and what you've got going on.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast. You can find me on Twitter. Obviously, I'm a big Twitter person, at Samantha NFL. I do the other platforms, but really just Twitter. And then my written work is on actionnetwork.com. I also host the Action Network's fantasy podcast a couple times a week, at least during the season. And we're doing a rookie sort of mini series right now. So I just recorded one with Kate Magic, who is awesome, from Ball Blast. So check that out. And yeah, give me a follow on Twitter.
Absolutely. Do the thing. So we will get back to hockey. I know Colorado just had a penalty kill. So I saw the little PP come up on the Tampa Bay side. So at least 3-3, 6 minutes left. Let's get back out there. Let's go do that hockey. For Coop, for Britt, for, of course, Samantha Previte, I am Kevin Tompkins. And until next time.
Toodles.